It is a Thursday, 30 May, year of our Lord 2024. We're live here. I want to thank our Real America's Voice team for doing this. Parker Sagan, the great team in Denver, for helping put it on this hour. Historic day. President Trump guilty of 34 felonies in a Manhattan courtroom, a show trial, just like Moscow in the 1930s. I do have to disagree with Professor Dershowitz, like the Nazi judges, like the Moscow show trials. He said, well, they're not throwing him in a gulag. Well, they want to throw him in Rikers Island, and they probably want to do it right away. President Trump is given a date of 11 July to return for sentencing. Of course, that's just a few days before he takes the stage before the nation and the world as a Republican nominee, a nomination now for president that he's winning in every poll. So what I want to do right now, and I want to thank everybody for following us over here to Lindell TV, people up on Getter and Rumble, of course, didn't have to go. We're going to try to get Mark Paoletta and Josh Hammer are going to join me, both very sophisticated lawyers. Josh Hammer over at Newsweek, one of the smartest guys around. But first, and like I said, I want you to immerse yourself in this. You have to see how they're presenting it. As I said in the last hour, I have some friends and colleagues on the Upper East Side that were telling me they're dancing in the streets. The wealthy are dancing in the streets up there that President Trump's been found guilty of this. Of course, you saw down outside the Manhattan courthouse, the working class people that support him. We can turn this in to the material for a landslide, but we are going to have to do it. It's just not going to happen on its own. We can do that. The first thing you have to do is understand the information warfare that is out there. So what we're going to do, we put a couple clips together of the celebratory nature over at some of the other networks. I want you to watch this, and then I will jump in. Let's go ahead, Denver, and let it rip.
Listen, it's a unanimous jury verdict, unanimous on all counts. This is a definitive and, this is an irreducible verdict. He can appeal. I'm sure he will appeal, but this is everything that the prosecution asked for from a jury that, by all accounts, took this thing very, very seriously. We counted the deliberation hours down here. Mm-hmm. The test here for us as a country is not about what happens on appeal and is not about what happens in sentencing. The test for us now as a country is whether or not this former president and his allies will have succeeded in trying to undermine the rule of law so that people reject this as a legitimate function of the rule of law in our country. They have tried to delegitimize this judge. They have tried to delegitimize this court. They have tried to delegitimize these proceedings. They've even tried to delegitimize the laws that he was charged under. Those efforts are the tests that we now have as a country. The people involved in bringing this case have been threatened and intimidated and had everything brought to bear on against them in a way that was designed
Let me have this. Thank you. Wow. She laid it out better than I think I could. She's absolutely 100% correct. Now comes the test. In fact, Denver, do I have Josh Hammer up right now? Let me go to Josh Hammer, but I would like Denver to hit rewind. I want to start that at the top once I finish with Brother Hammer and play it, because she's absolutely correct. The test now is, do the American people buy this? That is the test before us. And you as a force multiplier, you know your task and purpose. Let me bring in Josh Hammer. Josh, you're one of the leading public intellectuals in our movement. Unfortunately, you're also cursed with being a lawyer. So walk us through what has just happened. And is Rachel Maddow correct? The test is now about what the American people take away from this.
Well, Steve, I'm a lawyer who chooses not really to actually do a whole lot of legal practice, but I do have experience, and I like to think that I know what I'm talking about here. I mean, where to begin, right? I mean, what we have just seen, Steve, over the past month and a half is unprecedented. In my entire time following trials, in my entire time reading court opinions, in all things legal and judicial related. I want to just make one very basic point, and then I'll answer your question here. Ever since Alvin Bragg dropped his farcical 34-count indictment over a year ago now, it was late March 2023, if memory serves, I read this indictment, and my very first thought was, okay, there's 34 counts here of this underlying New York State fraudulent bookkeeping charge. But where is the actual predicate offense? Where is the in furtherance of? Otherwise, he's barred by statute of limitations. They literally told us, unless I just totally missed it, maybe I'm a moron, maybe I just totally missed it. I don't think I'm a moron. I literally learned the prosecution's legal theory of the case this week when the whole rest of the world learned it. I learned it from the jury instructions when they finally said that there are 3 possible unlawful means, aka 3 possible in furtherance of predicate offenses that could possibly get you to this prosecution. That you had the federal campaign finance law, which many of us speculated. Then you had a federal tax law violation. I don't even know how that works. I mean, I literally don't understand exactly how the Michael Cohen hush money stuff even implicates federal tax law. But okay, I guess they threw that in there. And then the last one was an unlawful means of committing an additional bookkeeping charge violation. None of this made sense. I mean, to say that we are in uncharted waters here, to say that the Rubicon has been crossed, that is an understatement. This is literally probably not the kind of thing that I think most, South American far left communist states would probably be engaging in right now. It is actually that level of absurd. The silver lining from the black letter legal perspective is I actually do think that it's going to be overturned on appeal. I feel relatively confident in that. I mean, just given all of the incredible indiscretions here, the outrageous conduct of the presiding judge, Juan Merchan, the outrageous nature of the jury instructions, the fact that Trump's lawyers weren't allowed to call Brad Smith, the former FEC commissioner, to be the expert witness and actually talk about how campaign finance law works. But Rachel Maddow is right, Steve, that the American people now face a real test. Are they going to let these republic-ending tactics, are they going to let this work? Or are we the people going to rise up en masse and say, enough, you're not going to ruin the republic like this. Let alone, you are not going to say that our side, the deplorables, that we are the threat to our democracy, while you guys were literally trying to take Donald Trump off the ballot. That was the 14th Amendment, Section 3 Insurrection Clause argument, which lost 9-0 at the Supreme Court. And then the 4 prosecutions and then this so-called historic first ever conviction of a former president of the United States. Are the American people going to stand up for that? Steve, I think that they are. I think that they are going to stand up for that. And it is incumbent on our side to not bat an eyelash over this, to not lose a second of sleep over this, to not try to take consolation and cry ourselves in, oh, we're still going to have this or that. No, we should double down and triple down right now. We should make sure that the Trump campaign is going to be well-staffed in all the swing states. Now is the time to go all in for the republic. And when it comes to lawfare in particular, Steve, the thing that you and I have discussed previously on this show, I've written about this a lot. Now is the time. If you are a red state prosecutor, a DA at the county level, an attorney general at the state level, maybe even higher than that, a governor or whatnot, you have to fight fire with fire. If at this point you are not committed to actually doing the only way out is through, as I've called it, actually seeing soberly and practically where we are. They're trying to put our people in jail. They want us removed from polite society, whether it comes to debanking, big tech platforming, you name it. They are out to put us in the proverbial and, God forbid, perhaps even the literal gulag. If you are a DA or an AG and you are not ready to start bloodying up the noses of your political opponents and start doing some lawfare to them the same way that they've been doing it to us, God help you, because at that point, then you've proven yourself feckless and useless.
Before I let you go, and by the way, Mark Paoletta is going to join us. I think we're going to get Royce White, as many voices, I hope, as possible. Josh, given you said, hey, this lawfare was so convoluted, does it not show how they were shred the Constitution, how they were shred English common law, how they were shred any vestige of this system that's been passed down unbroken from generation to generation and stomp it into the ground to get Trump and to destroy this movement? Isn't the stakes couldn't be higher, but also the scale of this is quite deep and quite large, sir?
Yeah, I mean, so there's an old English common law tactic. It was actually really more affiliated with the crown than with parliament. But if you go back 400 or 500 years, it was called the Bill of Attainder. And the Bill of Attainder was basically, it was essentially associated with the Star Chamber. The Bill of Attainder was a law or a kingly monarchical dictate, a decree that wasn't actually a law. It just singled out one individual. And it said that this individual, bring him to me, he shall be punished. we outlawed the Bill of Attainder, Steve, in Article 1 of the U.S. Constitution when the Constitution was ratified in 1789. That was when the Bill of Attainder was outlawed. That did not stop, by the way, Alvin Bragg from running for his Soros-funded DA position on essentially a Bill of Attainder platform. He literally ran for that office on a Get Trump platform. Ditto Tish James, the Attorney General of New York. I mean, let's not forget about that case, this ridiculous fraud case against the Trump organization. They both ran on essentially Bill of Attainder platforms. This is a practice that was proscribed by the Constitution of 1789. So, yes, they are absolutely throwing out hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years of the broader Anglo-American legal tradition. Again, the only question remaining, Steve, is our side, are they smelling what's going on here? And do they have the cojones to actually stand up and do what's necessary to restore ourselves to a modicum of fairness and blind justice under law?
Josh Hammer, where do people get your content? Social media, the Newsweek site, all your podcasts?
So I host two shows, The Josh Hammer Show and America on Trial with Josh Hammer, both available everywhere you get your podcasts. I write a weekly syndicated column that goes up at Newsweek, which is where I work, as well as a host of other Right of Center websites. Then I'm on Twitter, Josh_Hammer, and Instagram, Josh B. Hammer as well.
Josh, thank you. And thank you for the focus you've given this. I think you've inspired a lot of people. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve.
Mark Paoletta, we've had you on every day, I think, for the last week about the attack on Judge Cannon, the attack on Justice Alito, his wife, Justice Thomas. Today, Roberts told him, hey, I ain't coming anywhere. I'm not talking to anybody. To put it in perspective, particularly when Josh Hammer talks about Bill of Attainers and what the Crown used to do, have we shredded a couple of 100 years here of the American judicial system by what we saw today?
Absolutely. It's a sad and infuriating day for America. The left showing that they will rip up hundreds of years of common law and our Constitution. This is just all despicable. And it all ties in with everything that's going on. I mean, Josh Hammer was fantastic in what he was saying. I agree with it. But it all connects back to, Steve, as we were talking about this morning, the court and going after the court. All of these institutions, right? Show me the man, I'll show you the crime, right? That's the Bill of Attainder, right? That's what Barry has said, right? And so that's what's going on with Alito, with Thomas, Roberts, Chief Justice Roberts. I think Chief Justice Roberts is wide awake right now. He understands what's going on. He pushed back on White House and Durbin, said, I'm not going to meet with you. This is actually as we talked about, this is interfering with a case that's pending before the court. The senators were demanding to meet with Roberts to talk about these recusals. Recusals are a judicial decision on a case that's pending before the court. This is how, again, it's all connected. We are at war, okay, with the left. If the left is at war with us, and I just put something up, to restore the rule of law, right, and to protect our democracy and our liberties. Trump 2024 now more than ever, right? And I just saw on some text that WinRed has crashed with all the contributions that are pouring in support of President Trump, right? The left always crosses the line, right? We saw this with Kavanaugh when they brought in that lunatic, Julie Swetnick, and Michael Avenatti, right? And their lies. And Michael Avenatti is sitting in prison now for his conduct. And they and the American people see it on full display, and they recoil and they react, and then they take action. And that's what we're going to see here, because this is just so outrageous. And again, it's multi-front. Coming back, Josh just gave a great discussion on what just happened today with this despicable, disgraceful verdict. Prosecution.
Did I just lose Mark?
Number of constitutional violations. Back?
No, I'm losing. Okay, can we hang on? Mark, we're going to reboot. Take a second. We're just going to reboot you for a second if we can. Let's just go ahead and try. No, it was dropping. We'll get him back up. Right there, you're seeing it. Chief Justice Roberts today told the Senate, the Democratic Senate, that he was not going to go over and have a conversation, because going over and having a talk with these folks, having them question him, would show that they're not a co-equal branch of government, that he would go over as a supplicant. Mark just said it right there. The left is at war with us. This is a multi-front war, but this is the lawfare part. And it could not be more serious. Mark, it just said that Chief Justice Roberts could not go over there and have a conversation. It would show that he was a supplicant to these radicals in the Senate. And you can't get more radical than Dick Durbin. You can't do that. And you see with Merchan, the state courts, they were prepared to shred the Constitution. They're basically there to shred the common law that's run this country for so long. 34 felony accounts. So now, my question to you now is what it was this morning about where are the institutions, the legal institutions on the right, the Federalist Society, the Republican lawyers. We need people stepping up more than ever institutionally. CRA, you guys are doing it. The Heritage Organization's doing it. America First Parties are doing it, but we need more people to do it. Mark Paoletta.
Yes, sir. You're exactly right. This is, what time is it right now, right? That's what's going on. And all of these institutions need to step up, need to get out, full court press. Nothing else matters right now. We are under attack. They shredded the Constitution today. They shredded it over the past several months since they've been attacking President Trump with this bill of attainder. I think that was a nice way to put it with respect that Josh did. And we do need it. The left is on a multi-front war. They're not stopping. They're ruthless. And we've seen this happen. I'm an optimist. I've always said that. And the left takes these tactics and sometimes they score victories. We saw it happen in 2020. We saw it happen I always go back to Justice Thomas and what happened there. We saw it with Kavanaugh. We get our bearings and we go on offense. So that's what needs to happen right now. It's a terrible day in America today with this verdict. This should have never happened.
It should have never happened, but it's a day it's been a long time building, a long time coming. But these are the types of things, like they had conflict and they had discussions and they had, they tried to put things together, but they had conflict, and then you had Pearl Harbor, right? Or you have these marks in history that where you were when the verdict came down on Trump. You need these type of fissures to say which way we're going to go. And I keep telling people, it is not predetermined. We're going to remain a constitutional republic with the rule of law. You've seen it today. Now more than ever, it is back on the shoulders of this audience. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, no, it's on again. These folks have run on going after President Trump, from Georgia to New York to all these prosecutors that have made it a political mission to destroy one man. And you're right; these are these seminal moments that are very clearing, right, as to what's going on and what needs to happen. And so, yes, every organization, every person on the conservative side. And, we were talking about this morning in terms of conservative lawyers. It should be all lawyers, right? It should be all liberal lawyers, all people who respect the rule of law. It really is interesting, right? This projection of the left. They come after us for the rule of law. It's really the left that doesn't believe in the rule of law, Steve. That's what's going on. That's what you're seeing with the attack on President Trump. That's what you're seeing with respect to the Supreme Court. They don't want an independent Supreme Court, right? They don't want justices ruling the way they want to. They literally threatened two justices physically, in my view. But Senator Schumer, if they voted a different way on an abortion case, an impermissible way on an abortion case. So the left is the one that does not believe in the rule of law. We need to understand that, and we need to take action to help restore the rule of law.
To restore that, Mark, we need to immerse, because now this is going to be information war, and this is going to be about muscle to win. Because if we don't win, if there's no victory in November, this will just continue and it will get worse. So we must win. Now we know it's like Cortez having the ships, burning the ships on the beach. We got to march inland. To do that, people need to know. So where can they go with you What can you teach them? How can you arm them with information? Because this is what we need to be armed with now is information. This is an information war that's turning quickly into a political war. So where do they go, and how can CRA and how can Mark Paoletta help our audience in this? Because this is the most powerful audience in all media.
And again, it's all connected, Steve. You're so right to put it all together. So I'm at Mark Paoletta on X, and I'm at markpaoletta.com is my website. I'm going to be producing a bunch of stuff to get out there to inform people. But it's critically important to defend the Supreme Court, right? Because that's where ultimately President Trump will likely end up, right? Hopefully this verdict gets overturned, at the Court of Appeals level in New York. Looking at the verdict today and how quickly they reached it, not a lot of faith in that. You can go up to the top appellate court in New York, but then it's ultimately going up to the Supreme Court. The left right now is trying to take out the Supreme Court as an institution, right? And so that's why they're all connected, right? We want an independent Supreme Court because we know these charges, we know this verdict is absolute garbage, right? Is just an unjust, un-American attack on an individual.
Remember what they're trying. The reason they're after Trump, part of the reason, they saw what he did was setting it right at the Supreme Court, and they know what he's going to do. He's going to have a couple of picks. The next president's going to have a couple of picks. We could have permanently, a 7-2. We could go there. Yeah. They know that. That's where they're after him. It's part of the reason. And here's the thing I want to tell this audience, make sure the audience understands. Justice Alito is standing in the breach. Justice Thomas is standing in the breach. Mrs. Alito and Mrs. Thomas are standing in the breach. They're not backing down. And the Chief Justice of the day said he ain't backing down either. So we must have their backs. They're going out there and saying, hey, we're not going to kowtow to these people. We are not supplicants to this. We're not going to be party to this. This is the Supreme Court of the United States of America. And one of the reasons they want to tear Trump to shreds is they've controlled the Supreme Court for so long. And President Trump came up, and you got Gorsuch, you got Kavanaugh, you got Amy Coney Barrett. Mark Paoletta, your thoughts?
100%, Steve. When you think about all the presidents in Republican presidents, Ronald Reagan, right, blew it with Anthony Kennedy, right? Terrible picks. George Bush with David Souter, right? Picks that continued the left's control of the Supreme Court. President Trump comes along. 3 superb justices, right, that he selected, and he broke the left's back. That is why they were so angry, right? And you had, RBG being replaced by Amy Coney Barrett. I mean, how wonderful is that on the final days of 2020? And so that is why the left wants to go after the court, why they want to undermine it, why they want to smear these justices and their wives. I mean, that's the part that's just so reprehensible, right? But this has never happened. Again, we're living through these uncharted times, these unprecedented times, going after a president of the United States and a future president of the United States with this vicious lawfare, going after the Supreme Court and their spouses and their family, right? All to get their way, right? This is the viciousness, the evilness of the left. That's what they're doing. And I would say, just in terms of learning about Justice Thomas, okay, always good to learn, know the folks you love and defend. I have a book called Created Equal, Clarence Thomas in his own words. There's a fabulous documentary on it. It'd be great, Steve, one day we show a couple clips from that film, because the audience will love it, right? The posse will love that movie. And there's a book that goes through Justice Thomas's life. It's based on 25 hours of interviews with Justice Thomas, one-on-one with the director of that film, Michael Pack, our friend. But we need to protect the Supreme Court. That's what we need to do. It's the last line of defense. 100%. The left is not going to stop. As we've been having this conversation every day this week, Steve, right? Because the left has been, an unprecedented assault on the court every single day.
And remember, they want to shrink the court now to pack it.
The cases that are up, right, are the Fisher case, that's going to decide whether all of these, unjust convictions, right, using this law that was clearly not intended for this, it will be struck down by the court. And then the presidential immunity case. These are the things that are on the line right now.
Mark Paoletta, one more time, your social media, where do people go?
At Mark Paoletta. And then markpaoletta.com is my website with all my writings and testimony and the like.
Thank you, brother. We'll make sure it gets pushed out. I want to focus right here in that Ed Luce, who's the lead columnist for the Financial Times. Financial Times is the most powerful newspaper in the world, more powerful than the New York Times. Financial Times of London. Why Democrats are struggling to stop Trump. Right there, ladies and gentlemen. You have wrapped up in one column the headlines on the front page of this morning's paper. Exactly what happened in the Manhattan courtroom today. It is pure lawfare. And now, as reasonable men and women, citizens of this republic, you get to decide. If we just get mad and say we can't take it anymore, if we curl up in the fetal position, it's the end of the republic. This is republic ending. But if we get the steely resolve, of which the deplorables, MAGA, ultra MAGA, the America First movement, are known for, the sunlit uplands are ahead. But all of that after 5 November. Short commercial break. Back in the War Room in a moment.
Listen, it's a unanimous jury verdict, unanimous on all counts. This is a definitive and, this is an irreducible verdict. He can appeal. I'm sure he will appeal. But this is everything that the prosecution asked for from a jury that, by all accounts, took this thing very, very seriously. We counted the deliberation hours down here. Mm-hmm. The test here for us as a country is not about what happens on appeal and is not about what happens in sentencing. The test for us now as a country is whether or not this former president and his allies will have succeeded in trying to undermine the rule of law so that people reject this as a legitimate function of the rule of law in our country. They have tried to delegitimize this judge. They have tried to delegitimize this court. They have tried to delegitimize these proceedings. They've even tried to delegitimize the laws that he was charged under. Those efforts are the test that we now have as a country. The people involved in bringing this case have been threatened and intimidated and had everything brought to bear on against them in a way that was designed to delegitimize this process in the eyes of the American people. It is now
this process is delegitimized, and we're going to be the tip of the spear delegitimizing it. This is what this is about. There's no half measures. It's victory or they win. And, people come, we need rallies, but no, what we need now is focus like we've never had before. It's all out there in front of you. And I want you to immerse yourself tonight. We'll play clips tomorrow of Rachel Maddow and Morning Meek and all that. Remember, convicted felon, convicted felon, convicted felon, convicted felon. We told you from the beginning, this is what they were out to do. You heard Josh Hammer. You heard Mark Paoletta. You heard Mike Davis. These are some of the toughest warriors we've got. But now is about focus. It is victory or nothing. And how do you get to victory? It's voter registration. It's get out the vote. It's stop the steal. It's making sure you volunteer, not just as precinct committeeman. Now you got to volunteer to be a election judge, an election official. All of it. You got to train up, and you have to do it with steely resolve. We have to do it with steely resolve. In other words, we're not going to back down. If we don't quit, we win. And they know that. If we don't quit, we win. Once again, the Financial Times of London today, their cry for help. Why Democrats are struggling with Trump. They can't beat him. It is impossible. 2/3 of the nation is MAGA. America First, the deplorables. You saw downtown. What was the tale of two cities today in Manhattan? Downtown in that plaza across from the courthouse, you had working class America, multi-ethnic, multiracial, different religions, different outlooks on life, but understanding that they've been dealt out. Their voices are not considered. They are not at the table. Trump puts them in the room, not simply puts them at the table, he puts them at the head of the table. that is why the globalist elites need to destroy him, and the instrumentality is Alvin Bragg in this court in Manhattan. Now, if we don't take the action necessary and win and do it in highly focused way, then they did it. They used lawfare to do it. Remember, they were so nervous about lawfare here, and Rachel Maddow just summed it up. If we continue with our work, remember our work to delegitimize Biden because he's not legitimate. Do you think the Financial Times would be putting that headline up there of why are they struggling with Trump if they had 81 million votes the last time? Do you think if they had 81 million votes as a base, there'd be all this gnashing of teeth and running around? No, they didn't get 81 million votes. And they needed 81 million votes to steal this by a couple, 40,000, 42,000 in a couple of states? Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. You heard of those three states, the blue wall? They understand their backs up to the wall. Like I said, they will do anything to keep power. Lawfare, right? The big steal, and wag the dog. We had to postpone the 6 o'clock show. Was going to, we're going to have on experts about the war in Taiwan, what's exactly going on there, what's at stake. Also in Ukraine, as today it's announced that Anthony Blinken's over there, and they're talking about they're already using U.S. missiles to hit inside of Russian territory. By the way, we're trying to go up. I think President Trump came outside of Trump Tower for a second, just like on Billy Bush weekend on that Saturday afternoon when he decided not to do the ABC live interview. Thank God. He went outside Trump Tower and kind of reinforced his energy with the deplorables. It was quite amazing. And then we left for St. Louis the next day, and the rest is history, baby. Guess who showed up in St. Louis? The people that Bill Clinton had raped. That is called fighting fire with fire. Right now, what we need is steely resolve. I hope all of you are angry. I hope you're hurt. I hope you see what's happening to your republic. I hope you see it all. I want you to internalize it, and I want that channeled in what is going to be an enormous outburst of energy downrange to defeat this. The only way it's going to be defeated is at the ballot box. And when we win at the ballot box and close the deal this time, we can start to take this apparatus apart. Remember, the railhead of this goes all the way back to the Justice Department and to the White House. Matthew Colangelo, who's drinking champagne right now, they're getting drunk, high-fiving. Matthew Colangelo was seconded from the Justice Department, number 3 guy in back of Lisa Monaco, another demon, and of course Merrick Garland, seconded up there to be the architect of this after the Manhattan prosecuting office, DA, didn't want to take it on. They constructed it. They constructed this kind of Rube Goldberg machine, this apparatus that's so convoluted you don't even know. At the end, it was like 4 here. It's like a Chinese menu. You could pick this, you could pick that, you could pick the other thing. 4 here, 4 there, 4 there. Just do what you want. Don't need to be unanimous on the methodology. It's like that's ever been heard before. And people are talking about it being reversal. Although Alan Dershowitz said, "Hey, do the appellate judges in New York want to be the guys on the record that got that actually had a justice for President Trump and reverse this?" It's not a given. By a long way, it's not a given. That's why I said in this jury, you'd have to have people that were at a superhuman level, because the left will tear you apart. If a couple of jurors had hung out for a hung jury, and as soon as this was called so quickly, we told you if it happens in the first day or first couple of days, it's guilty. The only way you get to hung jury, he would keep them through the weekend and be next weekend and probably put alternative jurors on. Hung juries are not easy, but the pressure that comes on the jurors is enormous, and that's nothing with the pressure outside. There are no rules that these people won't break. There are no rules. There are no guardrails, nothing. And that is why Rachel Maddow sums it up. And that means the work's back on us. What Rachel Maddow just said is the work's back on us. And yes, it was an illegitimate process. Now we have to have the hard work of convincing our countrymen that maybe have not been paying attention. We know MAGA has. We know this audience has. And you know what your work is to do. Now, more than ever, you need to be a force multiplier. And like I said, you need to get the information and then be able to, for those, besides voter registration, get the votes. And like I said, this, I think, is a base election plus for those who are still uncertain. And people are sending me tweets all for the last couple of hours of people saying, I've never thought I voted for Trump, but I'm going to vote for him now. But I think in the minority community, we can have deep inroads. I think among black men, we can have deep inroads. Hispanic families, deep inroads. Asian Americans, particularly Chinese Americans, I think we can have deep inroads. People that came from communist countries and came and getting away from these dictatorial regimes, deep inroads. But that means work, hard work. We're very glad to note, I don't think the left's prepared to do that work. They want to glide off of the New York Times. I can't take Bragg. I refuse to put Bragg up here. I've seen enough of Bragg. Bragg's going to be gloating and, justice is done. He got his 34 counts. Like you said, this is a bill of attainder. This is one of the reasons we had a revolution, that you can't just go after one person. And that's what they did in a star chamber. It was a star chamber. Chris Hoar, I got to tell you what, we do have a special. And now at times of turbulence, it's going to be, you're going to want to hear this. Chris Hoar on a very historic, and I don't think it's a dark day. This is a day of enlightenment because now people can see that you can't hide it anymore. You can't spin it anymore. It is what it is. And you've seen how they use the legal system to destroy an individual, and they're there to destroy that individual because of this audience. Remember, not in the room, not in the deal. If you're not at the table, you're going to be served at the table. President Trump not only put you in the room, he put you at the head of the table, and that's why they hate him. They considered him a traitor to the billionaire class. They consider him a traitor. And you saw today all the billionaires flocking back to him because they've seen the numbers. They read the Financial Times. They know the math. They've got their own pollsters. They see what's happening. Chris Hoar, on a day of all days, in a very dark day in one aspect, in a very dangerous day, particularly going forward, what do you have for this audience?
Well, Steve, I wanted to just briefly talk about the other events going on this week, which has been these terrible storms, tornadoes, floods that we've seen in Texas and Louisiana and across the country that have left millions of people without power and communication. And it's just a reminder that you do need to be prepared, and we are very much on our own when these things hit. We've had calls from hundreds of our customers this week who've been so grateful that they've had communications with our satellite phones and power from our generators. And so I just wanted to remind the audience today that even with everything else going on, we still need to remember that we need to be prepared to protect our friends and family at home. And one of the best ways to do that is to have independent communications, such as the satellite phones. Satellite phones work when cell phones don't, Steve. When these tornadoes hit and when the floods and so on hit, they take out the power and the cell towers. And this leaves millions of people this week without any form of communication, without any way to reach out to the emergency services or to their friends and family. And here at sat123.com, we want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to protect and defend themselves and their family with a free satellite phone with activation from sat123.com. See, these phones used to be the purview of just the millionaires and the billionaires, but today you can get a free sat phone with activation at sat123.com. Just $95 a month. You're getting 150 minutes or texts to call your friends, family, or whoever you want around the world. With a satellite phone, Steve, you can call any other phone. You can call a landline, any cell phone, anywhere on earth, and they can also call you. And one of the other great features that we have is the ability to roll over the minutes you'll have. So if you don't use your minutes, they roll over and add up each month, so they're there when you need them. But Steve, these satellite phones save lives. They save lives every day. They save lives in the U.S. military, and they save lives of American citizens who happen to run into bad times or who are in just a bad situation. Unfortunately, these weather events seem to keep getting worse. But when cell phones go down and the towers go down, satellite phones keep working, and they will work no matter what. So anyone could call 941-841-0844. That's 941-841-0844, and talk to one of our sales reps who'll walk you through the equipment and the plans, or you can go to sat123.com, sat123.com.
Get all the immerse yourself in information. Get now more than ever, baby. Be looking at a sat phone. Chris Hoar, thank you for joining us today on this historic day.
Thank you, Steve.
Get all over those sat phones, folks. Never know what's going to happen. Okay, a couple of things. We got this spot. I got Royce White. I want to play the spot in a second. President Trump has just announced he's going to have a press conference live from the atrium of Trump Tower, which is stunningly beautiful, at 11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time tomorrow. That is the second hour of the War Room. And, of course, we will do a pregame starting at 10, and we'll be there live. So you get to look forward to that. I got the great Royce White, who is the GOP convention nominee for the Republican Party ticket for the Senate in the state of Minnesota. Royce White, your thoughts and observations about what went down today, sir?
Tyranny. Tyranny, tyranny, tyranny. You got to say it 3 times like Beetlejuice. That's what we're seeing. Tyranny. I warned people. I told people the rule of law, the law is only as righteous as the lawmakers who uphold it. And we got very unrighteous lawmakers, and so we get lawfare. And everybody better get real serious about it now, because it's not going to stop here. That's for sure.
That's my question to you, Royce. You know, you've dedicated your life now for running to the Senate to set things right. What is your message to the War Room posse about, hey, all games are off now? You see exactly what they're doing. I think the charges are over 100 years in prison or something. They're trying to bankrupt him, and they're going to him because they want to get to the Royce Whites. They want to get to the America First. They want to get to everybody that's a populist nationalist. What is your message to the War Room posse, sir?
This is about self-governance. We've outsourced our citizenship and our governance to a government that's betrayed us, to a permanent political elite class that's betrayed us. And it's time to get serious now about self-governance and all that may encompass.
Royce, where do you think we go from here? What would be your recommendation? You've got a primary coming up in August. We got a general election. They put sentencing a couple of days before President Trump's supposed to take the stage in Milwaukee before the world is the nominee. What is your recommendation of our next steps, sir?
My recommendation is that we stop allowing the left to have a corner on public demonstration. I know January 6th scared a lot of conservatives and Republicans and patriots into not protesting. I know a lot of people don't think protesting matters, but the rest of the world that's on the fence, that's in the middle, that may not be interested in these things, can have their attention called to these things if we, exercise our First Amendment rights. And now we're going to have to exercise every last right we have, because they're obviously under direct attack. We plan on having our first campaign event here in Minnesota at the Federal Reserve, returning back to where we started there in 2020 after George Floyd died. So that's where I would start. We gotta hit the streets peacefully, and get ready for a long haul. It's summertime. They picked a perfect time. Summertime. You don't got anywhere to go. You don't have to worry about cold weather. You get out there and you profess your love for country, and you demand that your rights be recognized, and that the presidents be recognized.
Royce, where do people go to find out more about your campaign, to volunteer, to do whatever, and where they find you on social media, all your podcasts, your shows, all of it?
RoyceWhite.us, that's the campaign website. Tonight on X, I got a breaking, leaked interview between myself and a disgraced local Star Tribune writer, and it's just more of an example of how the liberal media really treats and thinks about these most important issues and the people that they pertain to. So tune into that at 9 p.m. Central.
Brother, thank you so much. We will tune in. We'll be streaming it on our Getter and on Rumble. Do we have President Trump? We have this new spot that's up. Can I play that? Denver, can we play that new spot that President Trump's just come out with?
The final battle With you at my side, we will demolish the deep state. We will expel the warmongers from our government. We will drive out the globalists. We will cast out the communists, Marxists, and fascists. We will throw off the sick political class that hates our country. We will rout the fake news media, and we will liberate America from these villains once and for all.
Incredibly powerful right there. Okay, President Trump tomorrow morning at 11 is going to have a press conference. I'm sure he'll be coming out a lot tonight. We'll be talking to a lot of people behind the scenes and figuring out the way forward. But to me, it's quite simple. Rachel Maddow summed it up, and you can see their concern. You can see what they've gun decked, how they've positioned this, how they played this, the lawfare coming from the Justice Department all the way down through New York City to this courtroom today. You see their fear because they're saying, well, these people try to delegitimize it and now it's to the American people. 100% correct. It is an illegitimate process, and what we have done is presented information about that. And people have come to an overwhelming, I think 2/3, the polling was today, 2/3 of the people said this won't make any impact at all. The impact, I think, was down to under 17%. Our task and purpose and our mission is to make sure that 17% goes to zero. And that people that I think to vote for Trump was like 20% if this happened, to make that 30 or 40%. It is incumbent upon us. Nobody else is going to do it. Once again, there is no cavalry that is going to come and save this nation. You are it. This is a historic moment. We've had this happen before in the Revolution and the Civil War and the Great Depression and World War II. The United States has gone through these times before of turbulence. Of real turbulence. We're at another one again. And it all rests on your shoulders. I wouldn't say this and continue to say this if the shoulders were not broad and strong, and His divine providence guides us to give you the strength to carry this. So that's what it is. So tonight, immerse yourself in all the information warfare that's coming to bury President Trump. And then tomorrow morning, come back to the war room and we'll have some, how do I say this, battle plans. 10 o'clock live. Lou Dobbs is next here. 10 o'clock live tomorrow morning, back in the war room. President Trump at a press conference. And folks, I'm just thinking that might be a doozy. Okay, Lou Dobbs follows us. Want to thank the Real America's Voice team for doing this and putting us on. I'll be up on Getter all night. We're going to be streaming a bunch of stuff during the evening. Make sure Rumble, Getter, all of it. We'll see you back here live at 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time when you will be in the war room.